Marshall Chriswell is on the line with us. This program is intended for informational purposes only. The information does not constitute legal advice. The law constantly changes. The information may not be complete or correct depending on the date and your particular legal problem. Each legal problem depends on its individual facts. Different jurisdictions have different laws and regulations, and because of that, you should not act or rely on any information in this segment without seeking the advice of a competent attorney licensed to practice law in your jurisdiction for your particular problem. And Marshall Chriswell is with us this morning. He certainly is one of those competent attorneys that we like to talk with. Marshall, good morning to you.
Good morning, Todd.
It's good to have you with us here today. I want to talk about something that we hear a lot about, and maybe some people wonder what it is all about, and that is the idea of a title search when you're buying certain pieces of property. And I understand that you've had some recent experience that really serve as exemplars of what we need to be cautious about. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So a title search is... well, number one, any time that someone is acquiring title to real estate, whether it be, a cash sale or you're getting money from the bank, financing the transaction, or even, if you're purchasing something at a tax sale or a foreclosure sale, or you're getting a gift from a family member, someone gifting you some family property, all these things, you want to have a title search done. And I have so many clients that come in and say, we can skip that. Let's save the money. And, I know the owners of this property. I've known them. They've been family friends forever. It's been in their family. This property's been in their family a long time. There can't be any problems. I'm telling you, there can be problems.
Can people simply go by the assumption that everything should be good and say to themselves, somebody else will take care of that, because they certainly wouldn't allow a sale like this to go through if there were problems? That's probably not a good approach, huh?
That's right. And I think, and a lot of times it's because people don't have a frame of reference for really how complex a real estate transaction is and how complex the idea of a title to real estate is. Most people, when they think of the word title, generally the only real contact you've had with that term as far as transferring title is with a motor vehicle. That's just most people have dealt with transferring titles to motor vehicles. And it's pretty simple, right? If the seller comes into the notary and they've got the original title in their hand, you can be pretty darn sure that that's a valid title, because it's not being held by a bank that has a loan on it. Because with vehicles, they actually, if a bank has a loan on the property, they physically hold that title until the loan is paid off. So for the vehicle transaction, pretty simple, and that's kind of what most people think. Real estate transactions are nothing like that.
Yeah, it's a whole different animal. So what are some examples that you have recently that can sort of stand out to us as things to say, it's not just as a simple transaction. I give you money, you give me a piece of paper.
Sure. So I had a situation, I'm dealing with a situation currently where a gentleman and his wife wanted to purchase a home. They were purchasing from two elderly sisters that lived in this house. And this is one of those situations where somebody might come into my office and say, hey, this is an old family property, and we're going to, we want to move forward without a title search. In this case, title search is done. What you find out is the sisters that live in the house also used to own the house next door years ago, right? And they sold it to another buyer. And when they did that, the deed that was drafted accidentally contained the legal description for the house that the sisters live in, what my clients want to purchase now.
Uh-oh.
So they sold their own house. And they didn't know it. The new buyer of the house next door went ahead and got a mortgage, and the mortgage was placed of record at the courthouse, containing the legal description for the property where these two ladies lived. Nobody had any idea this had happened, but they had sold their property and it had a mortgage on it, unbeknownst to them. Without a title search, that would have never come to light.
They unwittingly would have bought a 2-for-1 there then, huh?
that yeah, well, they would have my client would have gotten there, would have gotten the house they would have not gotten title to the house that they wanted, and would have had to go back at their expense and fix this problem. But now, since there was a title search done, obviously the seller is responsible, and the seller's title insurance company, if they have title insurance, is responsible for going back and bearing the expense of fixing this problem, which is not an easy one to resolve, because you've got mortgage companies that this mortgage has been sold several times. It's been assigned through different mortgage servicing companies. You've got to get a hold of these people and try to get it all straightened out.
Well, it's amazing that something like that could happen with several transactions down through the years, and no one catching this until now.
That's right, and that's what happens. The one mistake is perpetuated over time, and somebody eventually has to go back and fix it.
Wow! I would imagine that there's an awful lot of legwork and paperwork that you have to do in those cases. So are there other examples similar to that or different?
Yeah. Another sort of similar one is as far as regarding a mortgage. So I have a situation where someone was buying a home, decided to have a title search done, and the title search revealed that, unbeknownst to anybody, there were 2 outstanding mortgages on the property, mortgages that had been paid off many, many years ago by the current seller. And that's an issue that comes up with some regularity. A bank, the mortgage gets paid off. The bank is required, when the mortgage gets paid off, to file a satisfaction piece with the county recorder's office and get that taken care of. Sometimes the bank misses it, and it just doesn't happen. Or sometimes it's an old private mortgage between private parties, right? Somebody, an owner financing type deal where the seller says, "All right, we'll owner finance and put." I'll take a private mortgage, and then they don't realize that they need to file a satisfaction later. So that's sort of common. In this situation, the mortgage was held by an entity known as the Home Farm Administration, which was a federal government agency that went defunct 40 years ago. And so we had to go, and there was nobody, readily, that this agency didn't exist anymore. So you had to do a lot of homework as far as who in the federal government would be authorized to sign a satisfaction of this particular mortgage. So, there was a lot of time and work involved in getting that done, and because we did a title search, caught it early, the seller had to take care of that.
Wow,
yeah.
That's an amazing little turn of events there. So did Joe Biden sign it?
No, it turned out that once you go back in the records, the American Home Farm Administration was, whenever it went defunct, there was a provision in the executive order that dissolved it, stating that the USDA would have authority over wrapping up any business with the Home Farm Administration. So once you find that out and you take it to the USDA and you present it to them, and they say, "Oh, okay, well, we have the authority to sign this," and there was somebody sitting in a cubicle somewhere that does these, because they're out there all over the country, not millions of them or anything, but there are, this comes up from time to time, and there is somebody sitting in a cubicle somewhere that has the authority to sign for these.
Somebody just has to remember where they are.
You just have to find them, yeah.
Marshall Chriswell with us this morning. Now, you said something a couple of moments ago that I thought really stood out, because we've talked about this in the past, and that is an owner-financed deal, and the lack of follow-through when that is taken care of, because in the end, not everybody knows enough about it that they might try to do it themselves, but then they usually get themselves into all kinds of entanglements. So we've talked before about how unwise it is to try to do owner financed without getting your attorney involved. So those sorts of situations would seem to be obvious that would need a title search. But these other things, what are the steps that we should be taking if we are considering acquiring or selling a piece of property when it comes to a title search?
Well, you want to, no matter what, you want to have it done early, right? You want the title search to be done if you're financing the property, as soon as you know that your loan has been approved. Let's get the title search done. Mm-hmm. And a title search involves, pulling all the documents of public record. Generally, we do a 60-year title search, so you pull all the documents back 60 years plus one owner, and that includes all the deeds and mortgages of record and any judgments, and also any if owners passed away during that time, their estates, and reviewing all of those and make sure inheritance taxes were paid, all that good stuff. So you want to make sure that process gets started early, because it can take some time, and certainly if issues come up within the title search, it can take time to get those resolved. And when you're dealing with you have an agreement of sale in place to purchase a property, you obviously have a closing date that you've got to deal with, and so you want to get things taken care of as quickly as possible. Now, you mentioned about owner financing. One thing that I see in when people come to me, and let's say they had an owner financing or an installment agreement to purchase a property, and maybe they've made all the payments. Maybe this agreement's been in place for several years. They've made all the payments. They come to me and they say, okay, we're ready to transfer title now. And it's my first involvement with these clients. And I say, okay, well, did you have a title search done whenever you put this agreement in place? Well, no, we kind of just wrote it on the back of a napkin and didn't have any legal involvement. Well, then we do a title search at that point, and if problems come up, wow, now you've already paid for a property, right? Now you've already paid, whatever it is, $50,000, $100,000, however much your agreement was. The buyer's already paid for it, and now we determine, now that there are problems with the title, and we don't, sometimes don't necessarily have a good legal agreement that was put in place to address that situation. So from the outset with these transactions, you've got to have an attorney involved. If you're the buyer, you want to have a good legal agreement for how this transaction is going to work, and you want to have a search done up front so that any problems can be taken care of at that point. So when you've made all your payments and it's time to transfer title, that can be a simple process.
I'm picturing a big plate of spaghetti, and you have to straighten out all the noodles and make them side by side.
That's a pretty good metaphor. I like that one.
He is Marshall Chriswell with us this morning. So if somebody's involved in this, what should they be doing right now? Calling you.
Well, right. You want to get in touch with an attorney. You want to have someone involved from the beginning that can walk you through this and make sure you don't fall into any of these traps. And if you wanted to hire me, you would call me at 724-465-5826. Come see us in the R&P Cole building, which is 655 Church Street in Indiana, or go online to www.westernpalawyer.com.
Marshall, thank you so much.
Hey, thanks, Todd. Have a good week.
You too.
Thanks, Todd. Have a good week.
You too.
Thanks.